Welcome to the Manufacturing Masters Podcast with your host, Allison DeFord.
Have you already mastered the art of sales on LinkedIn? No? Well, you could. In this heavy-duty episode of the Manufacturing Masters Podcast, you are going to learn from the master, the expert, Jamie Irvine. He's the host of the Heavy Duty Parts Report and the CEO of Heavy Duty Consulting, Inc. He is also an expert on the Manufacturing Masters platform. And from a small town in Canada, without ever meeting most or all of his customers face to face, Jamie has built a massive business, and he's going to teach you how to do the same thing on LinkedIn. How do you get from connection to sales call? And how do you do it in an authentic, meaningful way that works? So we're going to cover this 9-step process. Trust me, you're going to be taking notes like your hand's going to fall off, because this is so good and easy to use. It just takes a little dedication and some intention. And trust me, he is going to save you countless wasted hours and time doing stuff that doesn't work. This system works. So everybody, join Jamie and I as we dive in to LinkedIn, going from connection to sales call. Everybody, here we grow. This, my friends, is going to be a heavy-duty episode. So strap in. Jamie, welcome to the podcast.
So happy to be here. And everybody, you better get ready to be heavy duty.
Absolutely. You know, today's topic is one of my favorites. We're going to be talking about LinkedIn, and we're going to be talking about how to use it effectively. And you have a process that I'm very impressed with. It caught my interest. I've been on LinkedIn since dinosaurs roamed the earth. And you and I talked earlier, we are so sick and tired of all the spammy shit that's going on LinkedIn, especially because it's about business. And I think those of us who are authentic and want to do good business, it's so unnecessary. And it's I think if people will adopt your approach, your process, they will find that it's so much easier to be authentic and to follow, a real process and create real conversations. And so I'm really excited. And what caught my interest, you are an expert on the Manufacturing Masters platform. And you have a 4.5-minute video that talks about using LinkedIn to go from connection to sales call. And it caught my attention because I thought, well, that's what everybody wants to do, but they don't know how to do it. And so I watched your video. I took so many notes. I don't know how you packed this much stuff into 4.5 minutes, but by golly, you did it. And I would tell anybody listening, if you're not already subscribed to the platform, this 4.5-minute video alone is worth your subscription price. So I just want to jump in, and I want to point out one very important thing that you talk about. You don't need a massive audience to make this work.
No, absolutely not. When you think about the way that a lot of people approach this outbound thing online, they do it all wrong. And because they do it all wrong, they need to have huge volumes of people. Because if your success rate is under 0.5%, you got to talk to, you got to spam a lot of people before you get one to say yes.
Right.
This approach completely changes that paradigm to a completely different approach. It's high intent, high value, low volume. right? Because it's about connecting with people on a real level, treating them, surprise, surprise, like human beings, following the social norms that you would follow if we met at a trade show or at a conference or even at a party.
Right.
Not forgetting that there's a human being on the other side and treating them as such. And so because you take that approach, you don't want to talk to hundreds of people. In fact, you can't talk to hundreds or thousands of people. You want to focus on like 20 people a month.
Well, hold up here. So for you listening, are you surprised that he just said that? 20 people. I'm going to grow my network and my business by focusing on 20 people at a time.
I would argue that you will grow your network and you will have more success if you did that than if you tried to talk to hundreds or thousands with a very generic message that is really meaningless and filled with invisible marketing words that everybody's just going to ignore. And that actually does more damage to your reputation than providing the right people with some true value. And everybody talks about value, but we got to understand what that actually is. And here's the thing, like I'm in the heavy duty truck parts business. That's the business that I'm in. There's like 200 executives that I need to get to. And if I can get to those 200 executives, I am literally going to transform my business 10 times over, right? I mean, if we can get to those 200 executives and we can have a meaningful relationship with them and we can engage in business with them, we're talking about millions of dollars in revenue. I would argue that whatever vertical you find yourself in as a manufacturer, those kinds of ratios, the number might be different, but the ratio is going to be the same. There's a select few key people in every vertical of every industry that are significant and that you need to build a relationship with. Who is your ideal customer, right? Who are they exactly? And then how do you focus on them and build those relationships in an efficient way that will enable you to actually have meaningful conversations and will open up business opportunities? If not today, then how do you have a system to make sure that when they are ready in 3 months or 6 months or a year or 2 years from now, they remember you because you've been staying in touch with them, you've been meaningfully interacting with them, and you've built a relationship with them. That's what it's all about.
Meaningfully. That is the difference here. And you talk about too, high intent.
Yeah.
You talk about being intentional. So I wanted to jump into the 9 points that you brought up in the video. And you talk about, so number one, you talk about engagement. You talk about having this strategy. So that's important. So for everybody listening, you can write down this strategy as we go through it. Number two, you talk about being intentional and maybe touching or reaching out to 20 to 25 people at a time. So limit the number, right? Don't try to talk to thousands because you don't need to.
Yeah.
And then three, I wondered if you talk about pre-warming. You talk about creating a social environment. So what does pre-warming mean? How do I do that?
Okay, so let's just pretend that we are at a party right now.
Okay.
And you're with some of your friends and you've never met me before. And I walk up to you and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Jamie." And I just go right into a pitch like, "Here's what I sell and I want to sell this and you guys want to buy it?" You'd be like, "What are you doing, man? We're at a party. Like you didn't even really give us a chance to even know who you are." And you're immediately pitching me on what you do for work. Like it's not appropriate. This is not the appropriate time. Like let's get to know each other a little bit first. And then maybe when it's business time, we can talk about business, but we're at a party right now. So it's social time, right? See, everybody gets that when I use that illustration, but people forget that business is one of the highest social activities you will ever engage in, right? Business is a very, very social activity. And so you have to remember that. So when we talk about engaging, when we talk about pre-warming, we're talking about establishing a basis for a relationship, right? And when people are active on a social platform like LinkedIn for business, they are there for a purpose, right? If they are creating any kind of content at all, that content they are not putting out so that people won't see it. They're putting it out there so people will see it. If they're engaging in other people's content, they're trying to add some sort of contribution to that conversation. And they're trying to demonstrate maybe their core capacity or their understanding, or just to try to help someone else. These are the motivations behind why people are on LinkedIn and doing the things that they do. If they're attending an event, they want to learn. They're in learning mode, right? So if you look at what these people are doing and you look at the activity and you participate, you help them achieve their goals. If you like and comment on their content, that extends their content to your network, because people in your network see that you've liked and commented on that. That helps them to get the word out. If they are commenting on someone else's content and they make a really great point, and then you add to that and you contribute to that conversation, that is where you start to build meaningful connection with people. You start to establish, okay, this person genuinely likes me and is interested in helping me with my goals on this platform. It's really hard to dislike someone who is genuinely trying to help you.
I love that. It's so true. And so we need to avoid the tendency to want to run up and word vomit all over the person that we're trying to get to know.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like if we were at a party. That's the fastest way we're going to turn somebody off, is if we walk up and immediately start talking about ourselves. And it's like we're one of my favorite mentors is Steve Chandler, and he talks about when you come across as needy, it's creepy. So needy, I've never forgotten that. And so if you can resist being needy, even though you may be at the bottom of the barrel, you may be dying for business, resist the urge of the word vomit, right? And give first.
Yeah, and you talked about the what's really important is to not talk about yourself.
Right.
This isn't about you. At this stage of the relationship building process, it's not about you. It's about them. Make it about them. Show personal interest in them. Show a genuine desire to assist and help. And people say that. Like I see lots of people, they're like trying to create value, right? But value isn't in me dumping, PDFs and slides and video links and everything on you. That's all about me.
Right.
Value is I do something today to help you with your goals, something meaningful. And in the context of LinkedIn and a social platform, that is helping them with whatever their goals are, which are very obvious. I mean, there's only a couple things, right? Get their content seen, support their efforts to add value to someone else's content in the form of comments, and just help them to be successful in what they're doing. I mean, that's all you have to do. If you just keep that at the forefront of your mind in this stage of engagement and pre-warming. So you can imagine, right? So for 2 or 3 weeks, if all of a sudden you've never met me before, but for the next 2 or 3 weeks, I am actively trying to help you on the platform succeed. I'm liking your stuff. I'm commenting on it. I'm supporting you. You're going to be like, pretty cool person. Don't really know him, but seems to be a nice guy. And what normally people do is they go like, comment, and then they ask, right into the messenger, connection request, and they're asking within minutes of them liking 3 or 4 of your posts. That's not genuine. You got to spend some time to actually get to know this person and see what they're up to and support them where you can.
Yes. Love this. So refreshing. You talk about too that a lot of people, and I would venture to guess 95% of the people on LinkedIn are lurkers.
Yes.
Right? So we're voyeurs. We're watching, we're consuming. Maybe we're not necessarily putting out the content. So, and I don't know if you have a good answer for this. If let's say that there's an executive that I'm trying to connect with, and I see that he or she, maybe they're not super active. So is there a way to engage with them if they're not putting out a bunch of content?
You're right. I don't have a good answer. I have a great answer for this.
Awesome. Okay.
Okay. So yes, I think it is important that we distinguish between two types of users on the platform.
Okay.
There is active users or even hyperactive users. That's easy to distinguish because there's lots of activity on their profile. So you can engage them. You should pre-warm those. You shouldn't just go straight to a connection request with them. Spend some time to help them with their goals like we just talked about. Lurkers, typically speaking, are the buyers. And especially if they're at the executive level, they aren't active. There's a lot of risk. There's a lot of risk for executives. One poorly chosen comment or post or can create all kinds of havoc for an executive. So oftentimes they're lurkers because they're taking in information, but they're not really contributing. So you can, with lurkers, you can just send a connection request right away with the strategy that we teach. That there's nothing wrong with that because there's nothing to pre-warn. But even better than doing that is to look at their team. Because, you can look at the executive level and then you look at the VPs and the managers, and you can get a sense of who their team is. And often those people are active. So imagine this. You've invited me over, you're the executive of your company, and you've never met me before. But for some reason, we have an appointment. So in your morning meeting, you talk to your team and you say, hey, I got this guy, Jamie Irvine, he's coming over to talk to me later today. Anybody know him? And everybody's like, nope, never heard of him before. Okay. Maybe you'd even cancel the meeting, right? Because you're like, I don't know why I accepted this meeting. Okay. But conversely, what happens if you go with your team and you say, hey guys, anybody know Jamie Irvine? Oh yeah, he's a great guy. He helped me with this, and I saw some content that he made over here, and it was really impactful for me and my team. We used it, and it helped us. And then someone else puts their hand up and says, yeah, I know him too. And they all have like 5 or 6 stories of where they're like, yeah, I know who that is, and he's a great guy. Well, then as the executive, you're going to be like, wow, I'm really looking forward to meeting him.
Look at the difference.
That's what happens online. If with LinkedIn, if you make meaningful connections with that executive's team, when the executive does think about you, they're going to reach out to their team. And if their team, even though maybe I physically have never come into your office or met you yet, but virtually through the power of the platform of LinkedIn, we've had lots of interaction. They're going to say the exact same thing. They're going to be like, yeah, I know who that guy is. I see his content all the time. He's great. Helped me with this project, reached out to me there. He connected me with so-and-so, and that was really, impactful on our business. And it has the exact same effect. And so then the lurker will accept the connection request. And then you have the opportunity, once you're connected, to get into Messenger and have a meaningful, real conversation with that individual. So I hope you guys think that's a great answer. I do.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, you exceeded my expectation with that one. Thank you very much. I think the next thing that's really important is you talk about pattern interrupt.
Yeah.
This is brilliant. Would you share with people what does that mean? Mm-hmm. And what do I do next to pattern interrupt?
Well, I first of all, I do want to go on record in saying that although I've spent a lot of time inside of this system, I'm not the original architect of it. So I'm standing on the shoulders of giants here. My mentor was in the first 500,000 users on LinkedIn's been active and building this system since 2004. He's mentored me, and then I've perfected it and applied it to manufacturing and the heavy duty business. But yeah, let's talk about the pattern interrupt. So what normally happens on LinkedIn, right? Like, comment, value vomit in my messenger, connection request, all about them, not about me. And it's just invisible, right? We get the in-mails, we get the messages, the connection request. And what do? We just, as soon as we see the pattern, it's not pattern interrupt, it's pattern ignore, right? Yep. Now, what a pattern interrupt is you want to show up in Messenger different than everybody else so that you stand out. So go back to the party again. If everybody is dressed in business casual and I walk in a 3-piece suit with my cufflinks and I'm looking pretty dapper. It stands out as different, right? But what really stands out is if I walk in like a pink or blue suit, like Dumb and Dumber with Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels in the green and the blue and orange suit, that really stands out, right? And it gets your attention. So you have to do something like that to break the pattern of ignore and get them to go, wait, that's different. Now, the best thing to do is, again, not make it about you. So what we do is we go, before we do the first message, after we've connected, we've already done some research on their company. We've looked at news items related to their company. If they've been featured in trade journals, if they've attended trade shows, if they have a really awesome video that they've put out that, has some excellent content, if there's some sort of award that they've won, especially if it's something that directly relates to the marketing manager or the sales manager or the executive that you're trying to reach out to. So for example, if the CEO is the person I'm trying to reach out to, they've accepted my connection request, I'm going to look for maybe a video that they were featured in. And I'm going to go to like the 3-minute and 42-second mark. And I'm going to find something at that point that's later in the video that is actually something I like. And I'm going to pause the video and I'm going to take a screenshot of that. And there's their smiling face. There's the 3-minute and 42-second mark. And maybe we'll even edit the image and put a little circle around it with an arrow and maybe a thumbs up or something. But again, it's about them. It's their website, their logo, their face, them. It's all about them. So we found something like that we genuinely think is good. And we drop that image into Messenger first before we put any text. And we hit the send button. Pops up in their Messenger, this bright, colorful image, unlike anything they see in their Messenger inbox. And it's not only that, it's them. So of course they recognize it right away. Their logo, right? Their face. Then in the message underneath of it, we give them commendation for this thing that we have found to actually be, of value.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, really love this video. This point you made here, awesome. That's the pattern interrupt. It gets them to stop. It gets them to look at it. And, it gets their attention.
Well, and you took the time. I think that's the difference here too, is that everybody's in such a rush that if you just slow down and take a couple of minutes, like this doesn't take tons of time to be authentic, and just what a difference it makes. And you're right. When you see that in your feed, it's not like everything else that I'm seeing. Well, you talk about the next thing too, and I love this. You talk about, because I want to keep going in this process, so that, because I know everybody's feverishly taking notes because they're gonna adopt this right away. You talk about asking an irresistible question.
Yeah.
What is that? What do I ask?
So everything we've done up until this point still hasn't generated a response from them, other than them accepting our connection request. So after we've done the pattern interrupt, we have to ask a question that's going to prompt them to respond. And again, we want to make it about them, right? Mm-hmm. So for example, the video, the CEO, great point. When's the next video? They can't help but answer that. They're happy that you appreciated it. They just put all the time and effort in their team into making this great video, and somebody actually took the time to watch it and got value out of it. They're stoked. They're so happy. Immediately, they're going to say, got the next one planned for this. Or, you know what? We don't have the next one planned. I got to do that. That's one of the most common other responses I get. Now, let's say it's the marketing manager, right? Or an entrepreneur, and you just love their logo. So you drop their logo in as the pattern interrupt. Who designed this logo? Genius or brilliant or beautiful or whatever. It's something that you genuinely feel about it. That, if it's the entrepreneur, he's go, you know what? I'm more about manufacturing. I'm not about a design. I have this great designer that did it. Or maybe they did it themselves and they're super proud of it, right? If it's a salesperson whose team won an award, how are you going to be, so glad that you won this award? Good job. Like, what did you do to win the award? Or what are you going to do next year to beat the results of this year, right? But it's a question that is, again, about them. You're continuing to show personal interest. You want to know, and these aren't These aren't canned questions that you've got ready.
Right.
You can think about them in terms of generalities, but this has got to come from the heart. You got to like genuinely be excited about it and genuinely want to know. And I swear it's only in Messenger, but they can feel it.
Yeah, you are right. You talk about the next. So I love the irresistible question. I think that's beautiful and very effective, clearly. You talk about the next step as being a voice message. And
Right.
I would venture to guess that the majority of people have never taken advantage of leaving a voice message on LinkedIn.
So in LinkedIn Messenger, if you use your mobile device, and you can be working on your desktop and then quickly switch to your mobile, I hold the voicemail back for when they don't respond. Because, it's not 100%. Like it might be 40, 50, or 60% response rate inside of Messenger on that pattern interrupt and irresistible question. But sometimes people are just really busy.
Mm-hmm.
24 hours go by, they haven't got back to you. It's not that they didn't even see it or that they're not planning on getting back to you, but maybe they're in budget meetings or something. I just didn't have time. So if I don't hear from them in 24 hours, I take out my mobile, I go into LinkedIn to the app, I go into Messenger, I click on the feed, hit the record button, 1 minute, very short, under a minute, right? Can be 30 seconds, 45 seconds, basically just reiterating what you've already said. Hey, love that video. Awesome job. Again, really appreciated the point that you made about this. Really anxious to hear what the next one is. Hope to talk to you soon. And what that does is when they get it, first of all, you're absolutely right. Like 99% of people have never gotten that voicemail before. So they didn't even necessarily know it was a feature inside of LinkedIn. They hit the listen button and then they can hear your voice. They can hear the
Yes.
genuine enthusiasm you have for this subject. The commendation is real. They can see this is a human being who's taken a lot of time and effort to show me that they like me. And again, it's really hard to resist someone who genuinely likes you.
So true. So true. Okay, this is brilliant. And then you talk about the next step. You talk about it as stacking.
Yeah.
So stacking would be then maybe the back and forth.
Exactly. So again, think about it. We're at a party, we're talking. I haven't come up and pitched you my multi-level marketing scheme right out of the gate. I came and I showed genuine interest and I introduced myself to you and we shook hands and we started talking. And what's the natural back and forth? My name is, what's yours? I work for, where do you work? How'd you get into that business? Do you like it? Are you thinking about changing? What's the future hold for you? Do you have any kids? Like that's the natural, like social etiquette that we would use at a social event, like a party or a trade show or a conference. People kind of they forget that when they're on social. So in LinkedIn, you want to have a genuine conversation with this person. You don't want to jump to trying to sell them too quickly. So they come and they respond to your irresistible question or your voice message. You want to keep the conversation going, right? And you want to talk genuinely about what they're up to. So, oh, I'm going to do the video next week. Great. What subject are you going to cover this time? How do you come up with these ideas? How do you handle post-production? That's really hard for a lot of companies to, who are in manufacturing or in heavy duty truck parts. They're not necessarily marketers. So how do you handle that, right? Genuine questions that are centered on the subject that you've gotten the person to interact with you on. Again, just a demonstration of the fact that you really do care about this person, talking about this person. You're not just there to get something out of them. You're there to actually build a relationship with them.
Yes. Refreshing. All of this is refreshing. And I know that there's the trigger happy salesperson listening who's like, yeah, but I just want to, you just want to start talking about yourself. You just want to sell them something. And I think the important thing here to note over and over again is take your hand away from the trigger. It's not time, right? Again, go back to the party. And if you really want to get somebody's attention or maybe get into their circle and they don't know you from Adam, you've got to resist the jumping in and the word vomit and the selling.
Well,
Just
just remember, right? The golden rule: do unto others as you would
as
have
you,
done unto you. So, do
yeah,
you like it when people just value vomit on you and try to sell you something before they even know if you have a problem or need it? Like, probably
yeah,
not. So, don't do it to other people.
exactly. Okay. So the next thing you talk about leveraging a micro influencer.
Yeah.
Let's say I'm listening to this podcast and I'm like, what in the hell is a micro? I hear influencer, but like, give me the 411 because I don't know. And then what is it? And then how do I leverage this person? What does that mean?
So, this relates back to our overall engagement strategy. You've got to be able to scale your own reputation. You got to be able to get your name out there a little bit too. And if you don't have a very large following, you want to look for people that are in your vertical, they're in your industry, and maybe they have 5,000 followers and they're pretty active on the platform. They make content. You want to work with micro influencers and support them so that you can create a reciprocal relationship where you're supporting them and they will help you. How do you do that? Well, you do it exactly the way you engage a prospect. Like their and comment on their content, right? If they have an event, promote it. If they make something meaningful that has a good point, make sure you share it with some of your followers, even if you only have 300, even if you only have 3.
Mm-hmm.
Just show personal interest in trying to help those micro influencers. 2 things happen. Number 1, when you are active on their content, their followers see you. All of a sudden, you start popping up in the people also viewed this LinkedIn profile.
Right.
People see your comments. Who is this person? That's a good point he just made, and they might click on your profile. So it opens you up to their audience. But even more importantly, after you've spent some time, a few weeks, supporting micro influencers, when you do make some content, and you don't need to make a lot of it, but when you do, you can tag them in the comments at so-and-so. What do you think about this? And here's what, like, you've just been helping them for the last 3 weeks. You think
Right.
they're going to, most of them, especially micro influencers, they're really trying to build their following too. So you have an influencer with 2 million followers, you're not even going to be on the radar. But a micro influencer with 5,000 followers is active on that platform and is building all the time. They see that you've tagged them. And if they think it's good and you've been supporting them for a few weeks now, they're going to comment back on yours. What does that do? It boosts the algorithm. The algorithm sees engagement from someone who has a decent following. And then it boosts organic views of the content and the activity that you've created on LinkedIn. So you don't have to be a daily content creator. You can make a little bit of content every week, and you can build up this network of people. And then, you don't want to go crazy. Like, I know this one guy, God love him, but he tags everybody, every post he's ever done. And it gets tiresome really quick. So again, you have to use like normal social cues, right? Don't overdo it. But I'll tell you, you can 10x the reach of your content with this strategy of micro influencers. It's awesome.
It's true. Well, and I've done it before, and I've also had people, tag me and leverage my audience. And I think, when it's happening, but like you said, as long as there's been this reciprocal give and take, I think everybody's really good with it, because I feel like we're all in this together. At least if you are an authentic marketer, seller, business person, human, and you can see how all of this connects, right? There are all these, like, I'm reaching out to my 20 to 25 people. I'm connecting also with their team. I'm commenting and sharing and liking, and then I'm maybe tagging other folks, and then their audience. Like, look how all of this works together.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes people forget the power of this, like, this system, this connectivity.
What's the largest in-person audience you've ever spoken in front of?
Me? Oh gosh, really small. In person.
50 people?
Maybe a couple hundred. That
Okay,
for me.
couple hundred. Yeah, so that's pretty normal. If you've been in business any length of time, you've probably been in front of a couple hundred people. I always laugh when people say to me, "Oh, I did that strategy. I only got 1,500 views."
Only.
Only. Put 1,500 people in a room. Your knees are knocking. You'd be so nervous getting up in front of 1,500 people. Like that kind of reach, 1,500 people of the right kind of people.
Right.
Unbelievable power that has, right? So, and then you start stacking it over a period of time, and you may only accrue 10,000 views this year. That's 10,000 people in your industry, in your space, who are thinking about you, even if it's just for a few seconds. Your name, your company is getting out there. And as long as it's 10,000 of the right people, or even 1,000, or even 100 views from the right kinds of people, this can generate thousands, if not millions of dollars in revenue if you are able to take this system to the end and take those conversations and turn them into business opportunities.
Yes. And I want to point out something that a buddy of mine has fallen prey to a couple of times, and I find it perplexing, and I want to point it out because I want people to not do this. He came to me and he said, "Hey, I'm hiring this company and they are going to get me 5 to 10 phone appointments a day with executives." And I said, "Oh, hold up. You need to tell me, how are they going to do this?" Okay, so long story short, they're going to email thousands and thousands of executives.
Yeah.
Okay, these are those people you and I were talking about a moment ago who are possibly too busy, or it's too risky, and they're more the lurker. So they're not super active. I said, "You mean to tell me that an executive is going to open up an email from someone they've never met or heard of, and magically these folks are going to get them to set up an appointment to talk to you?"
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, love his heart, he's done this a couple of times. It never, ever works. And it's a waste of time. And I feel bad for the companies that are promoting this kind of marketing, because maybe this works for somebody, but when you're trying to create business connections with appropriate, authentic people, this is not the way to go. The way that you're talking about, that I'm talking about, this is building a relationship with authentic conversation and intention. And yeah, it's going to take a little bit of effort. I know it's super easy to, you want to phone it in and have somebody be feeding you, 5 to 10 meaningful conversations a day. Sure, but good luck.
If you could automate it and it was easy, everybody would do it.
Exactly. So that's why I think I just wanted to point that out, because this, to me, this caught my attention. One, because I've done it myself. Two, I feel like you've taken it to the next level with all this, you've created names for things. And I think that makes it a little easier to understand and say, I can do that too. That makes good sense. So I can just, instead of going out into the ether and going, wow, I want to connect, but how do I go from connection to meaningful conversation to a sales opportunity? How do I do that exactly? And I think this is how.
Agreed.
Well, sadly, we have to wrap up.
Okay, well, if we have to wrap up, we do need to cover one last thing that we didn't talk about. So when you're in Messenger and you've gotten pattern interrupt, irresistible question, and you've stacked, you do need to transition to a request. And the transition should be as seamless as this. After you, at appropriate period of time, you say, "Hey, looking at your profile again. What are you doing with this situation? How are you solving that problem?" Right? Whatever you do. And they'll say, actually, we got it covered. We're killing it. It's awesome. And then you know that they don't need that particular service right then. But oftentimes they'll say something along the lines of, oh, we are struggling with that. And you say something as simple as, really? Because we've helped customers or people just like you solve that in X amount of time or whatever, however you apply the solution. So it's really important that you do transition into the request to meet. And then it's just from there, you say, why don't we just jump on a call? Let's talk for a few minutes and I'll show you what we do. And if it's a good fit, we'll talk more. If not, no problem. So it's very light. You're not doing hard sale. You're not doing a lot of pressure,
Right.
but you do want to transition every one of those conversations in Messenger into a meeting. The goal is to get them off the platform, have a real conversation with them, virtually, through video, face-to-face if possible. And if you do that consistently, this is where 20 prospects a month turn into 4 or 5 business deals a month,
Right.
over and over and over again, right? So it is very important that you take that next step. And then the other thing is that you have to nurture people. People aren't always ready for your solution. So you shouldn't just try the 20 this month and then forget about those people. You want to keep nurturing with them over time. And in our program, we do talk about that specifically. We have a strategy that's part of the overall strategy, because that way, what ends up happening is people end up dropping into your funnel, into your Messenger inbox on LinkedIn out of the blue. You've been nurturing them. You reached out to them 6 months ago, and all of a sudden, boom, hey, it's budget time. We're planning for next year. We've got budget now. That thing you've been talking to me about, now's the time. So this is a great system that's very, very repeatable, consistent, and dependable to drive this result over a period of time. And as you implement all of the different pieces of the system and you do that consistently, it has a way of exponentially stacking up. And that's where you can really make some meaningful movement on your revenue and your business opportunities.
And so as a consultant, you guys actually help salespeople with this process, correct?
Correct. So we have a sales program. We have a learning management system that takes about 3 months to go through. You learn every piece of this. We teach you how to reboot your profile. We teach you how to do all of the things we've been talking about. We support you every step of the way. You're involved in group calls with others that are not competitors to yours, but will have similar experiences, and you can leverage the power of the group. And plus, our facilitators are there to help you in any way that you need. Because it's like anything, right? The first time you do it, it's a little awkward. It doesn't go so well. You have to learn, you have to practice, but then within a very short period of time, you get proficient in it. And then, you start to make it look easy.
That's fantastic. And as we finish up this episode, do you have any ahas from this work, from this process, that you want to leave people with?
Yes, you will get tired of it long before your prospects do. You will start to feel bored and almost like, I just keep doing this, and I think I should change it up. It's the don't, because if it's working, there's a reason that it works. So it's really important. If you want to win with this strategy, you have to be disciplined. You have to dedicate time each and every day to it. Not a lot of time, but an appropriate amount, 30, 60 minutes a day. You have to stick with the system. Don't abandon pieces of it, because they all work together to support the overall objective. And don't stop doing it, because that's the number one reason people that I have worked with and that my mentor has worked with, that's the number one reason they stop getting results, is because they stop doing it.
Exactly.
Crazy as that sounds.
Well, think about it. It's like, let's say that you're very social and you go to parties regularly, and that is how you've created your network of friends, and you just decide to stop being social.
Yeah.
Guess what? You're going to dry up all of your evening and weekend opportunities because you're not being social anymore. To me, it's as simple as that.
And things that at the beginning feel extraordinary to you, if you do them systematically, they become they become the norm.
Right.
So that's what usually happens, right? It's not that it doesn't work. It does that it stops working. It continues to work, but it becomes the norm for you. And you get, you sort of get a little complacent. You just don't execute quite as well. Like at the beginning, you're so excited and it's extraordinary. It's creating all these extraordinary results, but then all of a sudden the extraordinary becomes the norm. And, in order to continue on, you just have to have that level of discipline to be able to do it. And truth be told, I've struggled with that myself. And, we work at it very hard at our company. And I think we've really gotten to a point now where we've overcome that. But even us, as we were learning this and as we were going and developing the different components of it and adapting it to our needs, I think we experienced that too. But we've learned that discipline is what wins every time.
Well, thank you so much. If I can't thank you enough for being here, and I look forward to having you back because there are so many other topics around this that I know that you can help people with. And
we've barely scratched the surface.
Oh yeah. This is like the scratch and sniff. Oh, but there's so much more. And I just want to thank you personally because I feel number one, grateful to know you now. And I feel like you're doing great work in this world. And I know you've had ups and downs, which I'm going to share a little bit about when we post this episode. And I think that's what makes you so good at what you do, because this hasn't always come easy. You've encountered failures prior to successes. And I think it's fantastic that you're leading and helping other people, succeed. And again, you do it so you make it look effortless. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate being on here and having the opportunity to talk about this. And if I can be of assistance to anyone watching, please don't hesitate to reach out because we are here to help you.
Well, absolutely. And if you listening or watching this are not already connected with Jamie on LinkedIn, I would say run, don't walk, and make sure that you reach out and send him, it could just be a simple connection request, but if you want to get creative, maybe you can send him a voice message or take a look at some of his content, and let him know what you liked about it. But I highly recommend that you do that. And if you're not already subscribed to the Manufacturing Masters platform or to this podcast, please do that. There's so much value here. There are 130 experts that are authentic, real humans, and they are here to help you. And you can learn from their successes and their failures. And many of them have processes and approaches like Jamie's, but having to do with maybe a different vertical or a different topic. And I just love how everybody breaks things down and makes it much easier to consume and easier to use. And I want to thank you listening and watching for the work that you're doing in this world, because manufacturing is incredibly important and we need you. So keep going and we'll see you next time.
If you're not already, subscribe to the Manufacturing Masters podcast on Apple Music or Spotify. And for a deeper dive, head on over to manufacturing-masters.com. It's everything they never taught you in school.